this story is about the Doomsday Vault, which is basically a hole dug into the side of a mountain near the North Pole, which will contain seed samples from all over the world, the purpose of which is to preserve the genetic diversity of those food crops. Now this might not seem all that exciting to you, or even that important, until you consider that eating is one of the 2 or 3 things that is kind of really important to people. And while most plants on the planet aren't exactly tasty, we have, over the course of our history, created millions of really delicious plants. And while lots of them are just different strains of the same thing, having that genetic diversity is extremely important. And one of the huge fears of scientists, particularly botanists, is that that genetic diversity will be lost because of funding cutbacks at food banks or natural disasters, or a meteorite the size of Manhattan, or global thermonuclear war. You know. Anything could happen. So they want to preserve this diversity. Thankfully, the government of Norway, by the grace of their great big Norwegian hearts, have spent $8 million digging a hole into the side of a mountain near the North Pole to create the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Okay, it's a little bit more complex than just digging a hole into a mountain. The site, on the remote island of Spitsbergen, was very carefully selected to make sure that it's extremely seismically inactive, there are never any earthquakes in this place, and to make sure that if all the ice caps in the world melt, which they might, it will remain dry. Radiation levels and erosion statistics of the mountain were taken, and particularly, they wanted to find a place where they could slide this seed vault in to basically be completely surrounded by permafrost. Seed vaults have to be refrigerated. In fact, they have to be kept at very specific temperatures. By shoving the Svalbard vault into permafrost, they're basically ensuring that they have a huge insulating layer around it. So if the climate control system goes off for like 3 weeks, it basically stays the exact same temperature in there. And even if the climate control system stays off permanently, many of the seeds will be unharmed. Though in the case of an actual apocalypse, some of the more delicate seeds, as the temperature fluctuates, will perish. The basic design of the thing is a huge slab of cement as the entranceway. There's a little office for when people come, which is only going to be about once a year to check up on things. There's a very stable core tunnel that leads back to the mountain to make sure that erosive forces don't cause damage to the structure. And then there are a series of 3 vaults, all completely locked out to the outside world by airlocks. The whole thing altogether reaches almost 400 feet into the mountain and can contain more than 3 million seed samples. The seeds are kept at around 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is supposed to be the optimal temperature. And for some species, that'll only preserve it for like 20 or 30 years, but for other species like grains, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years of preservation without any human intervention. Now that the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is in fact finished, and the Norwegian government was graceful enough to pay for the construction, we have to figure out who's going to pay for the maintenance. Luckily, there is an international non-governmental organization called the Global Crop Security Trust that wants to do just that. They've set up an endowment that will pay for all of the expenses of the project until the end of time, with donations from agriculture companies and foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, because these people recognize that, you know, food is good.